Where's that being held at?
No, tomorrow. 6 o'clock. Send it up there. Send it up about this.
Turnout.
My name's David Heck, and I'm the organizer of this Integration Analytics Meetup. Thanks for coming. I do this every other month here at Rackspace. So the next one will probably be the beginning of April, I guess. And I'm very excited we have Whoopro tonight as our sponsor and our demo. So excited to see their new product and Salesforce integration. And thanks also to Rackspace. I used to work for Rackspace, and they're nice. You know, they don't really have much to do with Salesforce. Let me use the meeting room, so thank you. Thank you for that. Bob's around here somewhere, but I think that's basically it. I'll let John take it away from Whoopro.
Thanks very much. Pleasure to meet all of you. Got a chance to speak with many of you about your interests in web analytics, what your profession is, potentially how web analytics and customer analytics affects your business. My role within Whoopro, I'm the Vice President of Sales. Joined the company pretty recently ago, and you were my first presentation. So that'll be great in the way that we can learn together. And you'll probably have a lot of questions that I'll be able to answer for you tomorrow if that's the case. But luckily, we've got a great team, a support team with us tonight. We're here in San Francisco with 350 towns, and we've got a great team to answer any questions that might come up through the course of our presentation. We're really excited to share with you, and my personal opinion of the product when I saw this was one of amazement. And I've come from Whoopro, from IBM. Prior to that, with Cast Iron Systems, a data integration company, and then Boomi prior to that. So I've got a background in data integration. I've been getting a fantastic tutorial on customer analytics, and even just not, this neighborhood actually has a lot of memories for me simply because I started actually one of the first broadband ISPs called DSL Networks in 1997. So this is a fantastic opportunity for me to introduce something new to you that I think might have as much of an impact on business as perhaps even broadband did 15 years ago, something along those lines. So I'm really happy to share that with you. When I first saw Whoopro, I was wrapping my mind around what are the individual precedents where customer analytics can be found. I was thinking, where in companies have we seen customer analytics before? And I really came up with two examples that I thought were pretty appropriate. Naturally, one of the best brands in the world. I love Apple products, and I saw that they are putting customer analytics in a lot of their most popular products. iTunes, the App Store. These are examples. They're not customers of Whoopro just yet, but they're examples of customer analytics where when you browse music in iTunes or you buy something in the App Store, when you come back, it's able to recommend to you. It knows what you've purchased in the past, and regardless of whether you connect via mobile device, whether you connect via desktop, whether you connect with a tablet, it knows who you are, regardless of what kind of device you've accessed the store with, and then it actually is able to suggest certain things. This is an example of a type of customer analytics where it knows who you are, and Apple's able to serve you a lot better than perhaps somebody just offers static information. The other example that I came up with was Amazon. It wasn't that long ago that the malls had an advantage over the online stores. But what you found is Amazon's applying the principles of customer analytics to get to know who you are as a person, what you like, what you've purchased in the past, what they can suggest to you, and again, regardless of the type of device you've connected with. You've noticed that I come back to regardless of the type of device that you're connecting with. That's important because it's a major distinction with another type of analytics that you've probably heard of, web analytics. Web analytics does not necessarily provide you with the kind of granular detail that customer analytics does. It doesn't really give you an individual user profile, something that ultimately helps you distinguish one customer from the next. How do you segment certain customers from each other? This is very unique to customer analytics. This does not exist in web analytics. So this kind of brings me, preamble is to kind of give you a little bit of an idea, a high-level idea of what makes customer analytics different than web analytics. And I think as we kind of go through the demo here, hopefully you'll see a lot more characteristics that make Whooper really so special. What you're seeing here is actually Whooper applied in the Whooper website. This is our dashboard. This is real-time data that's being collected on the Whooper website. The company has clearly got a global appeal. You'll see not just visitors in the United States, Japan, Australia, Canada, Brazil, the UK. I mean, this is real data that's being collected for really any kind of user that might find this information useful. Up at the top, you see the number of visitors. You'll see other changing numbers as things happen. You'll see the visits today and the trend between noon today, 6 a.m. and now. And then you see a histogram here of new versus returning visitors. You'll see the top pages here, the live dashboard, the live visitors. You'll see a variety of top pages, kind of your top 10, so to speak. This is obviously configurable, and really any kind of detail that you find that might be of use to you on the dashboard that can be configured for your view. Down below here, traffic sources. If you're doing campaigns, around maybe social media, you're doing drip mail campaigns, these types of traffic sources can all be aggregated, and you can see what are the effectiveness, what's the return on investment for campaigns that you might have invested in. So this is a high-level overview of what Whooper provides. What I'm really excited to share with you about is this page here. This is actually the visitor section of Whooper. Now, I mentioned earlier that customer analytics is really specifically tailored to build unique relationships with every visitor of your webpage. You'll see here that we click on a specific profile. You'll see an anonymous number here, visitor 675352. Well, nobody likes really label the number, but this person hasn't submitted an email address for us to associate this person and their identity. But your anonymous traffic is assigned a unique visitor ID. You'll see the pages and the clicks that this person is actually committed. Looks like the source came from Google. This was location Lake Charles, Louisiana, and when he's on a Mac, and there's his IP address. It's a tremendous amount of information that you can garner from this. And at some point, clients will submit an email address, and all of the previous web history is then associated with that email address. So if you're a salesperson and you see an anonymous visitor that's maybe come back to your site 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times, you can actually set an alert, a notification that that person's come back to your site, and here are the links that they've clicked. These are kinds of buying behaviors they have exhibited. And when they submit an email address, hopefully as a website you're actually collecting email addresses, you may be able to, at that point, reach out to that person, and you've known all the web history that they've actually, all the browsing history and behavior that they've exhibited. So that's from a basic level, that's kind of the early stage Looper type of use case. I think I have a side hand.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question. Within that user data information, can you also get us Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn profiles, stuff like that?
Yes.
All right, along the same lines, how about like GitHub or other things that we can get from Intello or TalentBin?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the same type of results, really cool.
Yeah. So this is the basis of Looper, is creating unique visitor profiles. We believe if you're a salesperson, if you're a product manager, if you're a technical support professional, you need to be able to understand and segment user behavior in order to understand ultimately how you can serve them better. So, we talk a lot about marketing campaigns, sales campaigns, things that are done to generate business. By no means is that the limitation of the use cases for Lupra. You also have use cases in product management as well as tech support that are obviously very applicable. So let me move on here unless there's any questions.
There's a question.
Sure.
Unless you store some cookies, you will not be able to link all these anonymous guys to the email address.
Cookies is one way that we can track them. That's not the only way. So
If I disable, how do you track?
well, we have essentially we have JavaScript tracking code that is in the source of the web pages, and we do create unique visitor logs. But initially, yes, we do use cookies until they identify themselves with an email address. So,
You can talk about this.
okay, yeah. So, let me talk to you a little bit about the kind of reports that Lupra generates. Everyone in this room likely has heard of Google Analytics, and that's the most likely, and most pervasive type of analytics that are out there. This is similar to what you'd see in the type of reports that Google Analytics delivers. There's some pretty key differences from Google Analytics to customer analytics as Lupra provides. Specifically, this is live data. This is not data that is being it's delayed by hours at a time. This is live. That's the first thing. And you can actually drill down to much more specific details in terms of not just visitors, but the systems that these folks have connected with. So did they come in via desktop, tablet, mobile? These types of things might be relevant for developers that are building different apps. Yes, sir?
Can you go into what device, what mobile device, what tablet?
I believe that you can via the browser type.
One other thing, do you integrate with a business intelligence tool, or can we also get sentiment analytics?
We do offer an API, and that's a public API. It's an open API. It's on their website, and feel free to browse. It's a pretty robust API. Let you integrate with a variety of systems. But I've drilled down here in this specific report. You notice here the system that this individual, this device equals mobile. So this particular customer came in at 7:03 p.m., was on Safari, and specifically committed one action. Here's another that was an Apple device, mobile device from Santiago, Chile, Romania. So yeah, you can really get very granular level detail around the type of device that your users are coming to you to view. So this was just one example of systems. Here's content. You can actually also see referrers, campaigns, and you can search individual keywords within the analytics reports. So these are the types of search terms that people have actually keyed in to find Woopra, and so you can actually drill down and learn how ultimately people are searching to find your individual web page or your application.
So do you know from where they searched it? Whether they came
Yes.
to Google or?
Yeah, so you actually, if you drill down here, we can see Woopra, this was a search term. We can drill down a little further and see, like this most recent action 4 minutes ago came in from Modesto. One action, and we know it was Google, locally here in the United States. Or
That's me.
here's Taiwan. Was that you? Oh yeah, you're right. 5 minutes ago. Thanks to the CEO for doing that. Absolutely.
Helping with the data.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
I think the analytics, which is basically you're trying to find a pattern for marketing purposes, but I think there's a issue of what they call like a liability in terms of privacy issue.
Great
And,
question.
can you address on that privacy issue, like because you're getting into somebody's individual privacy?
That's a great question. I think,
Repeat the question. So we
yeah,
don't
so
forget.
he brought up, we're gaining intelligence from customers. We're gaining behavior data. We're tracking these visitors of the web pages. And what are the implications to privacy? Did I phrase that correctly?
Well, in terms of, let's say, do you tell them that, look, you are going to be
Track.
You're gonna be tracked. It's funny, that's up to the company, I suppose, on, what kind of corporate governance do they have? How do they want to disclose that? Do they want to disclose it? And is it assumed now, culturally, that if you're gonna be coming to my website, that you will be tracked? And terms of use statements may be included in a web page that actually specify that we do use cookies to track. So I think it's up to the company. Naturally, Woopra can't govern what people disclose on their own web pages as to what they disclose and how they disclose to their customers what the implications are. Naturally, I think that's an important question that we have to ask ourselves.
So I'll ask you, I'm okay with the cookie part of it, but I'm asking you another sensitive question. Does Woopra have access to these records? So if I'm an end customer, can I make sure that I encrypt this and what I get is, you're in no way able to get these records?
I don't think we've had that question before, but I'll tell you what, I'll meet with you afterwards. We can
Okay,
talk
we'll
about
talk.
that. But that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it's naturally all of us are interested in how's this impact our privacy. Yes.
I'd love to ask, how does Woopra interact with Salesforce and what's the connection?
That's a great question. We're going to get to that in a second. I want to give you a high-level overview of what we're doing here, and then we'll get into Salesforce. It's actually a pretty exciting announcement that we're going to be making tonight. The other piece that we find that is important for people to glean customer behavior and achievements is the navigation path that they take throughout your web page. Where are people getting stuck? Where are we? What external referrers are directing the most traffic to us? This is an example of the navigation path that most people take, and you see everything rendered in percentages, so you can actually see which were the most popular pages in the navigation path that most customers take. And you'll see external links here. Where is most of the traffic coming from? Looks like we did get some traffic today on our most recent blog article. Elite Curry actually, late January, did publish and relaunched the blog for Woopra. I think you'll find that to be really interesting, and I think you'll find a lot of insight on the Woopra blog, so please don't hesitate to reach there. But that's also an external link that's actually led to site visitors. Two more reports here that I want to just quickly cover. These are very important, and in my short time of being at Woopra, it seems like funnels and retention are really quite popular for people to understand how a customer may be progressing through the sales funnel. So let's take a scenario. Let's say you have an application in the App Exchange, and you want to know the progression and what does your funnel look like? Where are people getting stuck in the process? You know, you might have to get people to your web page. They may sign up, as you see here, for a trial. At Woopra, we've defined kind of the next stage is actually adding a website and then adding the tracking code. So these are examples of the progression. You'll see those that signed up, 100%, this was 809. You'll see of that, 86% added a website. And of that, 38% actually added the tracking code. And you'll be able to drill down by date to really understand. You know, weekends maybe is a little less, some weekdays maybe a little more, but you're able to understand your funnel much more, you know, in greater detail where people might be getting hung up, and you'll actually be able to, you know, in between the stages here, you're actually able to see what the average time was for them to actually progress from sign up to add the website and then website to adding the tracking code.
Quick question.
Sure.
Especially with the problems with web browsers and everybody who hates IE lately, it seems. Could I use that to justify, let's say, if somebody's having a problem viewing my website, particularly in Internet Explorer,
Yeah.
I could justify and document it right there?
Most definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Actually, guys, I have a small suggestion. If we can leave the questions to the end and let John finish the demo, and I can answer the question. I can have John answer the questions in the end. Okay?
Sounds good. We've just got a couple more slides here, and then I want to actually take you to the what you came to see, which is the Salesforce integration. So retention analysis. You know, I showed you funnels before, which actually are committed actions that they're events that actually happen that progress the customer through your sales funnel. Retention analysis is a little bit different. It actually tracks the number of visitors as 100% here within this time frame, and then actually the number of and the percentage of people that actually come back. You know, whether it be you want to track per day, per week, per month, and you're able to actually see the level of retention of visitors to your individual website. These are incredibly attractive, I find, in sales calls, and hopefully you will as well. So there's plenty more that I can discuss, but I think what we want to do is proceed with the demo. There's other items here that I'll call your attention to that we can discuss, perhaps if you want to engage in another demo during the course of the day, whether it be this week or next, please let us know. But we'll cover labels, which is rendered on the dashboard, notifications that as soon as anybody triggers certain behaviors, you can be notified via your mobile device, whether it be Android or Apple device, automations, and you can actually email and reports out to individuals that may not have a Woopra account, but maybe they want to look at the individual data that's collected by Woopra. So with that, that gives you a high-level overview of what Woopra does. One of the reasons why everybody came today, and I think I understand why, people want to understand how can Woopra work with Salesforce.com? How can we take the power that Woopra has and extend the power to Salesforce users? I've heard a couple of times today that Salesforce does not have what we consider to be analytics products that really create a lot of value for subscribers, and Woopra has changed that with this feature. You're going to find this is a very large impact within the Salesforce community, and you were saying it for the very first time. You will see it in the Salesforce App Exchange very shortly, but you were getting a sneak peek of this today, and we're really excited to share it with you. So without further ado, here is what you normally see within a Salesforce lead account. And this data looks obviously static. There is not a lot of particular value other than static information here. Everything must be keyed in by a salesperson, and we really don't know ultimately how fresh this information is. It's obviously a problem if you use salesforce.com and making sure the data integrity is maintained. And without that, naturally the data can be compromised in overall value. But as you scroll down in this profile, what you're seeing here is an actual real-time view of this particular user. And notice, here's the date, February 6th. This is a real-time view. This user, Ali Khoury, actually visited the website 14 minutes ago. Here's the number of visits that Ali has taken on the web page, the number of actions, the email address, all the information, all of the individual actions that the visitor took. Now, if you actually were to look at this as a salesperson, you're going to be able to actually prioritize this customer, this visitor to your web page, versus others that perhaps you want to target, but they haven't been to your website. So how are you going to be able to prioritize your time and make sure that you meet your quota for the month? That's what an example of what Whoopr does for salespeople. Helps you prioritize your time and ensure that the folks that you're following up with, that you understand how qualified they are, what they're interested in, and what you can recommend to them. And you'll find that theme, as I called earlier with Apple and Amazon. We are really enabling the same type of features that have made Apple successful in iTunes and the App Store. We're applying the same type of features and principles that made Amazon successful in being able to create unique visitor profiles. And then as a salesperson, you're able to then recommend, based on this behavior data, you're able to recommend certain products and services to those customers to really create a personal experience. Ultimately, that's what's going to differentiate your company from the competition, and what's ultimately going to render loyalty between you and your customer. So that's my presentation. What I want to we will conclude with some questions, and my call to action, my request for each of you today, before we take questions, is I'd love to I've gotten to know plenty of you tonight. I got a lot of business cards. I'd love to be able to see you actually look at Whoopr, give Whoopr a sign up for a trial account. Let us engage. Let us engage with you via Whoopr. Let us show you how we can engage with you as a user of our tool here, and let's figure out how we can work together. Yes, let's take some questions. We will take this gentleman right here. I haven't heard from him just yet.
Okay, I suppose you don't export to Salesforce every single visitor to the site. They must meet some criteria, some threshold. They must visit certain areas that might indicate that they're really interested in buying something from you. How do you set that up?
It can be done as granularly as you wish. In other words, it can be every visitor to your website can be. We can embed this profile within a Salesforce lead record, or you can specify certain criteria that actually maybe more narrow the trigger for that data to be rendered in Salesforce. One use case that we talked about is in some cases companies you can derive what company they're from by their IP address. We can actually notify salespeople when those companies' IP addresses come to your website, and then notify someone within Salesforce that's responsible for managing that particular record, that account. Yes, sir.
Yeah, John, you got the Ali Khoury here. Let's see, take a real thing here, John. Can you give us the Whoopr, the audience here, which is attending your conference here? Tell us the analytics on that audience.
Okay, so would that audience actually have been to the webpage? Yeah. So.
Well, it's the audience right here. We want to find out what is your opinion about this audience.
What's my opinion of the audience?
So
Well, they'd have to come to they'd have to come to my website in order for me to be able to profile them.
We're here. You're doing analytics. Are you doing analytics?
Only on those that visit our webpage.
Okay.
So if
if you have a mobile device, can you go to Uber.com right now? I can like show you how it works in real time and show you. Let's see if anybody of you, actually, does anybody use Uber? Have anybody used Uber here? We know that we don't have a lot of people using Uber in the Bay Area, but we're gonna change that. So, so here we go. Like we see a lot of people coming from mobile phones, Android devices. All of you went to the homepage. As you see, it shows like this green icon next to your name or next to your visitor ID, which means that you are online right now. And this whole profile is live. So once it's embedded in Salesforce, whatever you see there is 100% live. So let's say someone submits a demo request or signs up. It will automatically be added to the Salesforce as a lead. And the user or whoever is using Salesforce, the agent, can look at that profile and see the engagement level of that customer. First of all, they can see like what pages they've been looking at. And the other thing they can be looking at is like, basically a lot of people sign up for trial. And the biggest challenge for SaaS companies is to find out early on who's the person we need to prioritize. So by looking at the Salesforce lead, we can find out right away the engagement level of that customer. So if you look here, you can see that I'm a very hot lead. I mean, basically, I've been coming to the website every day. So, if we find out that someone has been coming to the website on a daily basis, this is a very hot lead, and we can know right away that this is someone that we can basically convert right away to a customer, or we can upsell. If they've been using Uber for a long time, we can upsell them. Yeah. What's the
All right, I noticed the locations there. One, does it give me longitude and latitude? Also, can I use this to track who's been looking at my application on the App Store or the App Market, the Salesforce App Market? Can I find out how many clicks, you know, how many times they've come to look at my app on the App Market?
You mean on the App Store?
Salesforce, yeah.
App Exchange. App Exchange. I don't believe we can put JavaScript code on the App Exchange.
I've asked.
Well, basically, if you want to track someone, we need to be able to. What is it?
Oh, I said, I was just joking, but I've asked and they said no.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think Salesforce will allow us
I think
to
the
do
security precludes that.
Look, there has been some discussion that they may actually allow us to submit the JavaScript code within Salesforce sites.
Especially,
Oh, yeah.
but the other question, going back to the mobile side of it in particular, does it give me longitude and latitude? Does it use a geo-location option and stuff like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, one of the Whooper features is the ability to see people on the line.
Oh, I saw the map, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so
But
you
I
can
wanna
see
know
in real time,
specifically
these
about
are our
the
customers right now. You can see, actually, let's go to San Francisco.
Please.
Where's San
No,
Francisco?
you're down lower, down. You can get lost in the woods up there.
Okay, so basically there are like 4 people right now in San Francisco.
In this building.
So for privacy reasons, we're not going to open people's profiles other than mine.
You know, one thing I think it appears that if you look at the Salesforce, etc., it's more of a CRM tool, customer relationship management. I think Upra, it appears that more of a VRM, digital relationship management. I think that's a good thing. I think you're doing a very good job on. Like if I coin the term, I don't know the term exists in the world marketplace. VRM, digital relationship management. But if a lot goes on between the VRM, taking like somebody just because closing on to make him as a lead, because you don't want to, salespeople are very expensive normally. People say that you don't want to dump everything to Salesforce, but you want to go through a lot of process of calling a qualified lead. Because you want to salespeople to work on a qualified lead, so you're sure to close. I think there will be a lot of gap where how do you call a qualified lead?
That's a very
It's
good
very
question.
important because it's not, you don't want to dump, you don't want to overload the Salesforce and saying the wrong thing.
It's an airline example, so that usually happens, that the guys who are looking for a long time just keep looking for deals, they're not the guys who buy it. It's within the last 2 days or so, those are the guys who
Yeah,
immediately.
so what I'm saying is a lot of, for VRM, for what I'm saying, for business relation management, you're doing a very good job. But to make it as, call them as a qualified lead, the sales should pursue. I think they should not go, they must be much more funnel analysis isn't required. I don't think I haven't seen that yet.
That's a very good question. Well, basically, what we're trying to do here is bringing the behavioral information about the customer to Salesforce. And CRMs, the whole time, like over the past 10 years, SaaS companies did not really take advantage of CRMs. And there was web analytics services that shows you like the behavior of the customers, completely separated from CRMs. And when you look at the CRM, all you see is basically what their email address is, what package they're on, and stuff like that. I mean, there are some services like Marketo, for example, who provide lead scoring, which is something that you guys may be very familiar with, and it's very important. But for us, I believe that by looking at a lead, by being able to look at a lead and bring all the behavioral information to that profile, it will add tons of value. For example, let's say someone reached out to us today, okay? Someone submits a demo request. And it adds up to the Salesforce CRM. We have a lead profile for them. We can look at it. We can find out that this person probably is coming from a company that has more than 200 employees. And probably it has 2 or 3 people using the product from that specific company. But we don't know the level of engagement of that customer. By looking at their Salesforce profile, by looking at this Woopra integration inside Salesforce, at their Woopra profile, we should be able right away to tell how engaged the customer has been and what are the pages or the marketing pages they've been looking at. And this is one part of the cycle of the customer. And then eventually, during the cycle, we want to see how engaged they were during the trial period and see if they used the actual features that we're trying to sell. Actually, we published today a blog post about what SaaS companies can learn from drug dealers. It's very interesting. Actually, Natalie wrote that. It's a very interesting article. It shows you how important the trial period is. And you want to see if that customer is actually using the product the way they're supposed to, because if they're not using the product, if they're not taking that drug, in other words, they're not going to come back and ask for more. So during the trial, it's the most critical stage where you want to be able to watch the customer in real time and be able to reach out to them and get them to use the right feature at the right time. And this is the second part of the cycle, and so on. Like later on, there is the customer success part where people probably decide to use your product, and eventually you want to find out if those customers are using the product much less. If they are using the product much less, you have to look at their engagement level. If you are looking at the CRM is going to show you that this customer is probably on the gold package or whatever. But if you look at the engagement level of that customer, if you look at the histogram that shows you on daily basis how engaged that customer is and what feature they've been using, you can know right away if that customer is using the product the right way, or if this person is abandoning. If they're abandoning, you probably need to reach out to them and get them to use the product again. So in other words, this whole integration with Salesforce, just one second. This whole integration with Salesforce, the whole idea is to bring the behavior information about customers to Salesforce. Because it never existed in the past. Probably Marketo has been adding some interesting moments about those customers. But simply by accessing, for example, for us, the live app, like basically you're just using the app, this is a very important metric for us. We want to know if those people are actually using the product. And if they're not, we want to reach out to them and save them. Otherwise, they're just stop paying us.
So in real time, can you generate an infographic that's showing how many people during that 30-day, 60-day trial, of how many are using it properly? I mean, is there an infographic in a dashboard that can be showing that type of data to an executive or
That's
something
basically
like that?
the funnel. I mean, if you look at the funnel with Woopra, let me go back to the funnel.
And by the way, we've got a couple of minutes and we got to conclude. We want to give David a chance to present the next 30 minutes.
Yeah. So by looking at the funnel, we find out right away who's dropping off, and we can compare multiple types of segments. And the default, obviously, the default segment is like comparing cohorts, being able to.
Particular infographic I'm looking for. Go ahead.
This funnel is specific, very specific to you and your application and your website. So I'm assuming other people have different ways of looking at their funnel based on URLs people visit or apps they use and so forth. So this implies some need for customizability and ability to look at fields you're getting in to create their own analytics and own dashboards. How does that process work?
Actually, I'm glad you asked this question, which will bring us to the discussion about schema, which is something very unique to Wupra. With Wupra, of course, like every single business has its own funnel. There's no way, I mean, sometimes SaaS companies have the same pattern where people sign up and then go into trial and then we convert them into customer and then we then try to keep them or retain them. That's part of it. For SaaS companies, you can define your schema or you define your funnel where people start by signing up and then in our case, we need to make sure that people are adding the code to their website. So that's part 2 of the funnel. As you can see, it looks completely native part of the software. While you're looking at it, there is something called add code, and then adding credit card, and so on. So we came up with this concept that we call schema, which helps us deliver a native experience for customers. In other words, if you have a business where you track payments and you track when people take photos or when people like upload something, these are probably important metrics for you. You can track them as custom events and add those events as part of the schema. And by defining this schema, this is something that you do only once initially when you are setting up the code. And when you add the schema, it will basically pre-generate all the reports that you should be looking at. In our case, for example, when people make a payment, we track that payment, we track what type of credit card they've been using. Of course, we don't send credit card information. We track which package they picked, and we track transaction ID and the invoice and all these kinds of stuff in just one event that we call payment. And we add all this metadata that we track with every event into the schema. By doing that, Wupra will automatically create a report for you. It allows you to see on daily basis how many payments you got. You can also view segments, like for example, you can compare campaigns, like which campaign brought you more income, more revenue, which credit card type is being used the most. If the credit card is not being used, probably you should not support it. Or like any kind of question like that, based on your schema, Wupra will automatically pre-generate a report for you. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that, and unfortunately, the new update, the new version of Wupra is not out yet. But basically, we're extremely excited about that next update. It completely focuses on delivering 100% native experience for people. It will seem like if you sign up for a Wupra account and like customize it the right way, it will feel like this software is just built for you. All you have to do is track the right custom events and add them to the schema. All the custom reports that you want to look at will be working for you out of the box. Like if you look at web trends, for example, you probably have to pay hundreds of dollars to set up every custom report. But with Wupra, by simply just defining the schema and sending the right tracking code, tracking the right events, it will automatically generate everything for you. You just need to look at all the reports that you can look at.
And can you briefly address in 10 words scale? Like you
Let
probably
me
couldn't do
this,
Amazon, but
because
smaller websites.
We've run over time, unfortunately. I want to give David a chance to as our person.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'm going to give a quick demo and then we'll have more time for questions with Ellie and John, so thank you very much. We're also going to have a giveaway if you haven't put your business card in here. Come do it.
Giveaway of what? Yeah.
It's a good question. Free t-shirt. I've got a $25 Starbucks gift card. Not sure if John brought anything in there.